ChowDownChou or random gaming, depending on what you're watching.
So moving on in the card, the headliner on the ESPN portion, Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Boy, I cannot wait for that fucking fight. Oh my god. Someone's going to sleep. I don't know how long. Someone's going to fucking sleep. Alright? I think people underestimate just how fucking scary Francis Ngannou is. Okay? Francis Ngannou starched, and I mean starched, a much younger and better, hungrier Alistair Overeem in like a round or two. Jairzinho Rozenstruik hit a Hail Mary shot in the last 10 seconds of a 5-round main event while being outclassed the entirety of the fight before hitting that shot. And I think that shows you sort of the level difference between the two. I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to be a future title challenger for sure. But I think this is Francis Ngannou's time to strengthen his claim that after DC Stipe 3, it is his time to be the next heavyweight champion of the world. I predict Ngannou knocks out Rozenstruik in 2 rounds. I think it's going to be a fight where everyone's going to be holding their breath. Rozenstruik probably going to hit off some good shots, but I don't think it's his time yet. But his time will come. I think his time will definitely come. He is a hungry and very talented kid. So, best of luck to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Prove me wrong. Don't think that's going to happen, but, definitely prove me wrong. Knock out Ngannou. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, again, Ngannou KO round number 2. And, by the way, what a fucking fantastic fight to be the last one on ESPN. That is going to be the fight that is going to propel one of them into massive, massive stardom. I think whoever knocks each other out in that particular fight, either it's Francis Ngannou or Jairzinho Rozenstruik, they are on a rocket ship. They are going to be the next big thing in the UFC, in the heavyweight division, even in Hollywood. I think this fight could be a career maker for both gentlemen. And so, especially with the lockdown, with the quarantine, it is crucial that this fight not be boring for the UFC's sake and be a knockout for one of the gentlemen's sake. Alright, and another fight I do want to talk about is Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone. I mean, both men have verbally agreed to the bout. Both men has been in sort of a slump lately. Of course, Cowboy got knocked out by Conor McGregor, and before that got knocked out by Justin Gaethje, got TKO'd by Tony Ferguson. Not great. Not a great couple of bouts, but if you think about it, he's only lost to the best of the best. Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje are fighting for the interim title. Conor McGregor used to be the number 1 contender. So you can never count Cowboy out. Alright? And he's proven with his past fights versus Eli Quinta, Alexander Hernandez, that he is fucking dangerous. He is dangerous. Alright? As for Anthony Pettis, I've always thought that his knockout win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was kind of a fluke. I think Wonderboy didn't see that Superman punch coming, caught him flat on the fucking chin, just turned his lights out. Good for Showtime. I think Showtime's time is over. As an elite fighter, as a contender, is over. He then, of course, lost to Nate Diaz, which, after his performance versus Jorge Masvidal, I don't think Nate Diaz is the Nate Diaz of old. I don't think he's got that spark in him. I don't think he's got that explosiveness, that world-class boxing. I think he's just a step slower. And the fact that Anthony Pettis lost that fight, then lost just a heart-wrenching fight to Diego Faella, who is sort of on that track where Charles Oliveira's on. Just dangerous Brazilians coming back up the ranks. But still, just like how Kevin Lee lost to Charles Oliveira, Anthony Pettis losing to Diego Faella it's heartbreaking. It's one of those losses that signify that, hey, you might need to think about the people you're fighting against and the decision to keep fighting. Do you still want to be a world champion is seriously called into question after those losses. But just like how Kevin Lee was in that same position before he knocked out Gregor Gillespie, I think one fight is all it takes for these guys to climb back to where they were. So Anthony Pettis, a huge fight for him, and Donald Cerrone, a huge fight for him if he can somehow pull this win off, prove that all this you threw the fight to McGregor, all this shit is it's just unfounded, and that he is still one of the best fucking lightweights out there. This fight is incredibly crucial in the careers of both men. From what I see from the past few fights and their trajectory in their careers, I think Cowboy has the upper hand. I think Cowboy probably will take the win. Um, I predict Cowboy TKO over Anthony Pettis round 3, and I think Anthony Pettis might be on the verge of retiring, to be honest. Um, And I think, depending on how the weight cut goes, this fight might actually be at welterweight instead of lightweight. If you look at the history of both men, there's a history of having trouble cutting down weight for both men. So, it's a fluid decision. I think it's up to the UFC and the management and teams of both fighters to decide whether this fight is going to be 170 or 155. Because I think being at 170 actually put the advantage on Anthony Pettis, as he's shown that the power is still there. But if it's at 155, I think the weight cut drains too much out of Pettis. I think Donald Cerrone is still faster, sharper, more dangerous fighter on the feet or on the ground. And so I predict TKO, Cowboy Cerrone, round 3.